Hello everybody. I'm so excited for our first live sew along, if you can't tell. We're going to be sewing the free Catalina pattern from Simple Life, of course. If you're looking to find the pattern, you can see the rest of our stories. There's links in there to find the pattern, and the code to get it free is in our Facebook group, so you've got to join if you want to get the pattern for free. I will be saving this video, hopefully. I'm going to try to save this video so that people can watch it again later if you didn't know we were having the live today, you didn't have your pattern printed or whatever. And we'll post it somewhere that you'll be able to find it. So, if you haven't already cut your fabric, the pattern only includes 3 pattern pieces, which is super easy. So you have the bodice pattern piece that you'll cut on the fold, 2 straps. You can cut it either with the pattern piece or the measurements, which is nice. And the back bodice, which you also cut on the fold. And then on the bodice pattern piece, you will see there's a chart with all of the measurements for the skirt that you will need to cut. So you'll need to cut 2 of those, one front and one back. And then the 1/4 inch elastic, you'll have to cut 3. I find on the bigger sizes, you might want to add some more elastic in there. You'll have to do like the measuring and stuff yourself, but the 3 elastic is what it calls for. And then also on the back bodice piece, we have the measurements for where to place your elastic. So you measure that from the center. Okay. I've never actually sewn this pattern either, so if this is your first time, it is also mine. So I have all of my instructions here printed, and we'll be going through it. Okay, so the first step is to do our straps. So I have my 2 strap pieces here, and we are going to fold them right sides together widthwise like this. And we are going to sew them down the raw edges, the long raw edges, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is different from a regular 3/8. So that's something to keep in mind. Make sure all my settings are right. I am actually not in my sewing room because if I was, it would be a lot messier than this, for starters. But also, we had a family emergency a few weeks back, so I'm actually staying at my parents' for now. So this is actually my mom's machine. I guess I can turn you so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. This is my mom's machine in my mom's basement, and that is just what we're working with today. I like to use a stitch length of 2 when I'm doing, when I'm putting my pieces together, like when I'm constructing. I call it the construction stitch. I only use a length of 2, and when I'm top stitching, I use like a 3 or a 4. You'll also notice I do not use pins. I should say I do not use pins often because I do sometimes use them for trickier parts. But okay, so we have now sewn it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And it says, using a loop turner, turn your strap right side out and press. So, I do not have a loop turner, and I'm pretty sure most people do not. So, I use either like a pencil, or I have this little crochet hook that I use often for turning and for pulling my like serger loops through and stuff like that, or my serger tails. So I sometimes just use that. Sometimes though it's just easy to use your finger. Yes, I'm going to save this live for later. I'm not sure where it will be posted to, but we'll see. Okay, so now I've turned it right side out. You can press it if you're doing like flutters or anything on your straps. You'll have it coming out at the seam, obviously, and you'll have to sew your straps a different way, like with the Laguna straps or something like that. So you can either press it flat so that the seam is in the middle like this, or you can press it so that the seam is at the side. I think I'm gonna press it flat so that the seam is in the middle, just so that I have like a right side and a wrong side, and I won't have to figure out which way the seam is pointing later when we attach it to the bodice. I don't even think I have my iron on at the moment. There's my ironing board. Isn't it pretty? It's my mom's iron and I'm obsessed with it. I'm gonna have to buy one for myself. It's not even plugged in. There we go. When I'm using cotton, I have my iron all the way up to the highest heat. I think sometimes it's called linen or cotton or something like that. We're still warming up. So, in the meantime, we can work on the next strap. Move my tools out of the way. See, I do own pins, I just don't use them. Very often. Okay, so again, 1/4 of an inch. I also forgot to mention that there's going to be a giveaway for one of our viewers, and I'm not sure actually if I can see the viewers after the fact, so make sure you leave a comment so that I know you were watching, and I'll pick somebody from the comments. There we go. All right, back to the ironing board. Come on. I want to make sure my seam allowance is open when I'm pressing it, so that there's not a lot of bulk in there. Is that pressed open? Okay. Alright, we are going to have to use the iron again, so leave your irons on. Alright, so now it says to top stitch, which is of course optional, and I also don't usually do it, but for the sake of the sew along, I'm going to turn my stitch length up to a 3, and I like to top stitch with like a 1/8 inch seam allowance. don't have to backstitch when you're top stitching your straps because both ends are going to be secured. There we go. How pretty. Oh, you can't even see my top stitching. I guess that's a good thing. One of the positives about making a white dress, I guess. My seam is in the middle, but you can totally do it on the side. It's totally a matter of preference. I just like having a right side and a wrong side so that I don't have to like fiddle with which side goes on the outside and which side goes on the inside, you know what I mean? And it also prevents a lot of bulk on one of the sides of the straps, but again, it's just preference. There we go, we've got our straps. So now we are going to take our front main bodice piece and we are going to measure over 1/4 of an inch. I have a pretty good eye and I don't usually measure it, but we might as well measure it. And then it says mark with a pin. This pin is crooked. Okay, one is marked. Ow. Does anyone else just say ow even though it doesn't hurt? I don't know where that habit came from. Alright. So now, if you did do your seams on the side of your strap, I need to put my hair up, going insane. Anyway, what I was trying to explain was that if you did have your strap seams on the sides, then you would have to kind of figure out which one is going on which side and if the seam is going on the outside or the inside of the bodice. Whereas if you have it in the center, you just know that you have to put the right side down, and that's all you have to do. So I just find that it makes it a little quicker, a little more obvious. So you're going to, I think, on the inside of your pin. Okay, so make sure that the pins are on the outside. Whoops, turn off my light. Make sure that your pins are on the outside of your straps and not like centered or, you know, off, obviously. There we go. Now I'm like super warm. Oh, that's fun. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to assume that we're basting. Pin or baste in place. Okay. I'm going to pin and baste just to be on the safe side. Just gonna take this pin out. Let me know what's in the right spot. All right. So my stitch length is still a 3 from top stitching, which is also what I use for a basting stitch. And I, again, just based at like 1/8 of an inch. And I don't back stitch or anything. It's just to kind of hold it in place in the meantime, so it doesn't shift around when we are adding the lining. So, because I like to make things difficult, my lining is actually the same as my main, so it's gonna make things nice and easy for ya. Sorry, I'm just checking the comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so we are done with the first page of steps. You can toss that aside. Okay, so now we are adding the lining. So on top of our main bodice with the straps basted here, we're gonna put our lining piece. So we just put it right on top, lining everything up. And we are going to sew from the side seam up the little arm sky there, across the top, down the other one, and stop at the side seam. We're not closing the side seams yet, we're just sewing the top bit. And I guess it doesn't say what our seam allowance is, so that is where we assume 3/8 of an inch, I'm assuming. I'm going to turn my stitch length back to a 2 for construction. Okay, and my pivot point is going to be right before my needle hits the strap on the inside. If you're pivoting before or after that, you're gonna have awkward gap, or your straps are going to be like tucking into the arm sky part, and it's not gonna be very nice looking. So just make sure that when you are pivoting, your needle is in the down position right before you hit that strap in the middle. And again, remember to leave a comment so that I know you were here, and you'll be entered to win the giveaway. So again, my needle is down right after the strap on this side, and I'm going to be pivoting. Well, actually I need to go a little bit further. Okay, pivot with the needle in the down position. And back stitch. There we go. So now we need to clip our curves. And to do that, I really like to use pinking shears. So pinking shears are either zigzag or scalloped like this, and it prevents fraying, which is nice, so the seams last a little longer. Thank you, the fabric is amazing. It's from Luna d'Avalon in Quebec. They ship like worldwide, which is awesome, and they have some really, really amazing prints. And so thank you to Luna d'Avalon for this beautiful floral. I was really excited about it too when they sent it to me. Okay, so now I am trimming the arm skies completely. So you can see I trim nice and close to my stitches. You can barely see my stitches there. And I'm also gonna make sure that this corner right here is clipped really, really close so that when we turn it, it'll be a nice crisp corner. And you shouldn't actually cut through the strap, because the strap needs to be left long here just for extra support. Because if you're pulling on it and the strap in the seam allowance of the strap has been cut, you have less to, it has less to hang on to. So try to kind of do it around the strap. See, so I stopped like right where the strap is here. It's hard to see right where the strap is there, and then I'm just gonna start again right at that corner, cut nice and close. Just gonna get in there a little better. There we go. Okay, so now all of my curves are clipped, and when I turn it, we'll have nice round curves and crisp corners. And so I'm thinking that the pattern is going to want us to press that. Is that true? Press the bodice seams. Okay. Let's go back over to the beautiful iron. Are we still on? Yeah. Okay. Talking to inanimate objects is also a really great talent of mine. When I sew with my Nana, she goes, "Are they talking back to you?" So I kind of just like press the seams out as I go, like massage them out, if that makes sense. There we go. Didn't do a very good job on that. Et voila, we have a front bodice. So that's the easy part. Okay, let's see. Oh, you're welcome for hosting. I love them too, and I need to do them more often, and I'm going to do them more often. I'll be here, hopefully I'm going to be doing a live sew-along like once a month. I'm going to try and aim for like the first or second weekend of every month to do live sew-alongs of all of our patterns. Because it's so much fun. I feel like I'm not sewing alone anymore. I have all my friends with me. Okay, so what's next? Now we're going to work on the back bodice, so we can set that aside. I have my main and my lining, which are both oh so different. Just kidding. So we are working with our main back bodice piece. If you are using directional, which I am, there we go. We need to make sure that we're marking the top of the bodice piece, not the bottom. So make sure that it's facing the proper way, and we're going to be marking the center. I've already ironed it in half so I can actually see my center, but if you haven't figured that out, you just fold it in half and then like pin that little fold. There's my center. Okay. Okay, so it says, mark with a pin. Using the chart below, measure from the center point over on each side and mark. Okay, so this is where we're marking for the straps. So I'm doing a 2T. Man, my pins are all crooked. Okay. So I'm doing a 2T, so I'm going to do 2 inches over on the left and 2 inches over on the right. And I'm going to mark it with a pin. Right there. And 2 inches on this side. Come on. This little sew-along is going to take all day at this rate. Okie dokie. So, with your back bodice piece right side up, place your front bodice piece straps on top, right sides together. And are they on the inside this time? Outside of your pin marks, okay. So this is right side down. I know it's hard to tell. Well, you can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. So my bodice is right side down. I can tell because my straps have the center seam. So I'm putting it right side down, and I'm going to pin and baste the straps on the outside of those pins that we just marked at the 2 inches or the 3 inches or whatever you found for your size. Okay, so I'm going to pin those in place, line it up, pin it. Okay, turn my length back up for a basting stitch. The only reason I turn my length up for a basting stitch is because if I make a mistake, then it's super easy to pull out long stitches rather than short ones, which is why I use short ones for construction so that they're not easy to pull out. So I based at like 1/4 inches or 1/8 inches, somewhere in there. Be sure to leave a comment. If you want to win a prize. I think it'll be some kind of shop credit, so definitely worth it. Okay, so there we go, I have that basted. So now we are going to now we're done with the sheet number 2 of our instructions, so we'll put that to the side. So now we're going to lay our back lining piece on top of the back main piece, right sides together. Again, you want to make sure if you have directional fabric that it is the right way. So where that center pin is, that is the top of your bodice. So you want to make sure that your directional fabric is the right way so that the top of your bodice is lining up with that pin. I'm going to use that center pin to pin my layers together. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, okay. Sometimes I forget you guys are just in my phone and I'm the one that has to move you so you can see. We need like virtual reality sew-alongs, that would be cool. See how I don't like pinning because it just takes so much time. Oh, I guess I need one more pin, don't I? Okay. So now we are just going to sew straight across where we just pinned, straight across the top there. And it doesn't say that there's a specific seam allowance, so we will assume that it's 3/8 inches. And your straps are sandwiched in between those, and that is correct. I know it looks kind of silly, but it works out, I promise. Turn the stitch length back down to 2 for construction. There we go. Et voila. So you can trim the seam allowance if you want. I'm not going to. All right, so now I'm going to, well, you don't need to press it yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to press it. Because I'm a rule breaker, I guess. Ooh, gotta. Yes, I'm going to save this story, or this live. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to post it afterwards, but it will be available, and I will make sure that I do a blog post on it, and it's somewhere that will be accessible for everyone. all pressed nice and crisp. So now you can hold it up like this and look at your beautiful little bodice. Okay, but for now, oh, I need to make some space here, hang on. So now it wants us to sew our side seams. There we go, okay. So the way we do that is we are going to open up both our front bodice and our back bodice like this. And then it makes it really easy to see exactly what side seams need to line up. So we're just going to open our bodices and then fold this down so that this lines up here. So you want to make sure that your center seam is lined up. There we go. And I'm going to pin it, make sure it stays in place. And same with the other side. Our bodices are open and I'm going to line that up. Hopefully, maybe I should do it this way so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, pin that center seam. Okay, so then we're just going to sew down that line there. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, being careful not to catch any of your straps in there. Stitch length is at 2. And we are sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Stitch. And I like to press the side seams open like this. When I say press your seam open, I mean like open up both sides and then press it flat so that you can see the right side of the fabric in the seam allowance. Just like that, it'll make the bulk a little less bulky, if you know what I mean. Before I go press that though, I'm going to sew the other side the same way. So now we're going to press those seams open back over to my pretty iron. My mom's pretty iron, I mean. Okay. It's easier to do this on the end of your ironing board, like on the small end, but okay, press that open. Other side. All right. So now I have this funny looking tube here with straps in the middle. And you're just going to fold them so that they're wrong sides together around that seam. And you should get something that looks like this. Ta-da! I don't know if y'all heard that in the background. There's somebody had my parents live on a golf course, and when people drive past, they think it's hilarious to honk the horn at the people golfing, and it's one of those funny song playing horns. Okay, so you'll notice that the back is a little bit bigger than the front bodice, and that is okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. So now we are done with the next page. So the third page steps, we're all done. So now we're starting step 13, which says turn your bodice right side out and press. Top stitch 1/8 inch along the top edge of the bodice all the way around. Again, I don't normally do this, but I will, just for the sake of this holiday. And because I'm childless today and I want it to last as long as possible. Okay. So I'm going to start at one of the side seams so that my back stitches aren't super obvious. It'll be hidden under the arm. And I top stitch at a length of 3 and with a seam allowance of 1/8 of an inch. This may take a while. If you have just joined, make sure that you leave a comment, and then you can be entered to win our giveaway at the end. So make sure you do that. Okay, I'm halfway done the top stitching, guys. We're getting there. So really nice and carefully along the front, because it is likely going to be noticeable unless you have thread that matches perfectly. Reach the other side. There, all nicely top stitched. That was a first. Okay. So now we are going to work on doing our elastic casings. So we're going to use that top stitching line as a guide, so I'm really glad I did top stitch. There, now you can see me. Okay. So now we're going to measure down 1/2 inch from that top stitching line on the back bodice. And what are we going to do? We're going to mark it. I wish we did that before we sewed the side seams, but it's okay, because we can just use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I guess. So I will mark, I think that's 1/2 inch, but there we go, and I'll mark it on the other side seam too. So we're not going down 1/2 inch from the top of the bodice. We're going down 1/2 inch from the top stitching line. Okie dokie. So now you could draw a line all the way across that's 1/2 inch down from your top stitching line. I'm just going to use like a 1/2 inch seam allowance and do it that way. Okie dokie. There we go. I'm going to make sure my needle lines up exactly on that pin that I placed. Okay. And you are going to want to backstitch this part. And if you didn't notice, I left my stitch length on a 3 because it's still technically top stitching. Now you can see, hopefully, on the back, is it too bright? There, now you can see on the back I have 1/2 inch down from my top stitching. And then measure up 1 inch from the bottom raw edge. And sew across there. Okay, so the bottom raw edge, meaning this edge, of course, we're going to measure up into the bodice 1 inch. And the reason we do 1 inch instead of a 1/2 inch is because there is 1/2 inch of room for our seam allowance when we attach the skirt, so it'll still end up being 1/2 inch from where the skirt attaches. Okay, and on the other side too. There we go. Again, for this, you can draw like a line all the way across or like mark all the way across. But I am just going to use the lines on my sewing machine to make sure that I'm 1 inch away from the raw edge. Okay. Make sure your needle starts right at the side seam, like in the ditch of the side seam, if that makes sense to you. Oh, I lost my... I need to rethread my machine. You probably can't notice from where you are, but I'm actually using the thread from my serger because, again, I'm not at home and don't have access to all of the things that I need, like my thread stand, for example. This is like a self-threader needle thing, and it only works about half the time. Come on. There we go. All right, let's try that again. So we are starting with our needle in the ditch of the side seam. we go. Keeping our stitch length at a 3. Make sure your fabric is all lying nice and flat so there's no tucks. And end right at that side seam too, right in the ditch of it. You can see, maybe if I turn down my light, so you can see how my stitching stops right at that side seam. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so now we have 2 lines across there. Measure up 1/2 inch from that stitch line and sew across the back again. That was my cat. Well, my sister's cat. All right. There we go. So we have 2 casings now, and it wants another one right in the middle. So what I do for that is I measure what the gap is between the bottom of the top casing and the top of the bottom casing. So mine's measuring at like 1 1/4 inches. Ish. So we'll just say like, well, not even 1 1/4 actually, it's less than 1/4. It's like 1 1/8. So we'll just call that 1. So we'll do like, we'll mark the center about here. And then we'll measure 1/4 inch on each side of that. So I've marked the center in between those 2 stitches, these 2 stitches here. So this is the bottom of this casing and this is the top of the bottom casing. And so I pinned right in the middle, and then I'm just going to measure out about 1/4 inch on either side for our final casing. There we go. So now I have the marks where my next casing is going to go. Coincidentally, it ends up being about 1/4 inch from each of those stitches that I already did. So that's a nice easy one. I can use the lines on my machine for that. All right, and then we'll do 1/2 inch down from there, where my other pin marking is. Ooh. Okay. Alright, so they're not spaced perfectly, but you can see I have 1, 2, 3 elastic casings, sort of. Okay, so now we are going to thread our elastic with a safety pin. I don't even know if I have a safety pin actually at this point. Let's see. Got my elastic, I haven't even cut it yet. Pin somewhere. Maybe it's in here. Well, that's unfortunate. It's not going to make it easy. Oh, I see it. Phew. Okay, if you do not have a safety pin, please go get one. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Okay, so now I need my little measurement of... Okay, so 1/4 inch elastic is what we're using. And I'm doing a 2T, so I'm going to take my front bodice piece with the chart on it, and I can see that I need to cut 3 elastics that are 10 1/4 inch long. So before I measure it, I stretch it, because that is going to be the true length of it. Where did my measuring tape go now? There it is. So now we're going to measure 10 1/4. All right, there's 10 1/2, 10 1/4. Take my non-fabric scissors. Okay, and now I can just use that one to measure the rest. So they're all the same. Man, I feel like I should be doing this live sew along outside. It's so beautiful. Is it beautiful where y'all are? Anyone commented? No? Guys, make sure you leave a comment if you're here, because you will be entered to win the prize at the end. So please, please, please comment so I know you are here. Okay. So now I have my elastic cut. I'm going to put my scissors away. Give me some space. I'm gonna take my safety pin and I'm going to stick it through the end of my elastic like this and close it up. And this safety pin is essentially going to be leading it through all of these little channels. So the way we do that is we have to go in through the front of the bodice. And in the side seams, you will see there are the gaps. So hopefully you pressed your seams open like I did, so that it's easier for you to get in there. Okay, there we go. So then we just need to slide it along that safety pin and make sure the tail end of your elastic doesn't go through the casing. In order to do that, I put a pin in the other end like this to make it too big to go through the end. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So that when I'm leading it through, I know it's not going to get lost inside the casing. This would take you forever if you didn't have a safety pin. So glad I found one. All right, so now I'm through on the other side. I can feel it. And I'm just going to double check that my elastic isn't crooked in there. Like I want it to lay nice and flat. Oh my God, my dad in his Porsche just driving across his yard. Okay, so there, I have one through the casing. So now what we're gonna do is hold the elastic in there. My safety pin is still attached. And we are going to do what sewists call, I'm gonna turn my stitch in the ditch, if that makes sense. So we are going to stitch in the ditch of our side seam to make sure that the elastic doesn't fall back in on both sides. So I'm gonna turn that back up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna stitch in the ditch of my side seam. And do make sure that you back stitch. I'm gonna open it up and make sure that I got the elastic. See, so my elastic sticks out like 1/4 of an inch. And I can take off my safety pin now. And we'll go to the other side where that pin is. And we'll do the same over there. So make sure it's all flat. Okay, we're gonna stitch in the ditch of the side seam again, making sure to back stitch. Go. See, again, it sticks out 1/4 of an inch. There we go, and we can pull out that pin that was holding it. There we go, so we have our first elastic in the casing. And we gotta do that 2 more times, woohoo! Oh, it's 8 p.m. there. I guess I didn't realize that it would be that different, but it makes sense. You guys are also in winter now, aren't you, in the UK? Or no, that's Australia, never mind. I would love to live in the UK. That would be so fun. I'm in Canada, so I would take rain over snow any day. Okay, now I'm trying to get my elastic into the center casing here. There we go. And we'll put a little pin in the end to make sure it doesn't fall through your casing. Do. Come on. There we go. Okie dokie. Now we're going to do the same thing. Use that safety pin. Just starting summer, yeah. So same here. Been waiting on summer for many, many months. Okay, perfect. We are through. Got caught on something. All right, so I pull it through 1/4 of an inch farther than the side seam and stitch in the ditch again. I'm hoping my battery is gonna last. Still got plenty of battery left. Okay, double check that. Yeah, we stick out about 1/4 of an inch again. Take out your safety pin. Go to the other side where the pin is. Whew, that's sticking out a little farther than 1/4 of an inch. Let's pull that through a little bit. Okay. That's looking pretty good. So now we're going to stitch in the ditch on that one too. Just make sure when you're doing this that you're not getting your straps caught in your stitches. Okay. So now we've got 2 elastics in our casings and we just have 1 more to do. I already explained it to you guys, so I'm not going to bore you and do it all over again. I love this dress. I can't believe that it's free. It's such a perfect little like summer dress. And with the elastic casing, like it could fit for like 2 summers. I'm making this one a little bit big for my girl. She doesn't quite fit into the 2s yet, but she's so close. So I'm making it slightly big and hoping that she'll be able to wear it for 2 summers. Because this gorgeous floral from Luna d'Avalon deserves to be worn for 2 seasons. Come on. Can't get it through here. Get in there. There we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. One side done. Keep losing my pedal under there. Forgot a pin in there. There we go. Is that it? There's the back. Isn't it so pretty? I don't know, something so satisfying about like elasticated backs. It just looks so pretty. Okay. So there we have it. We're done our bodice. Cool. So now we're done that page. That's the 4th page. So we just finished for step 16. Yeah. Step 16. We just finished. So we are moving on to step 17, which is to do the other 2 elastic casings, which we are also done. So now we're going to start working on our skirt. I'm going to pause because I have to go pee. So I'm going to go do that really quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, and she's back. All right, so the skirt. How am I gonna do this? Usually I serge the edges of the skirt so that there's no like raw edges on the inside. But I don't really feel like threading my serger. So I'm going to do, I think, some French seams. If you've never seen French seam, now you will. So we're going to switch our stitch length back to a 2 for starters. We're lining up our skirt pieces right sides together, and we're sewing our short raw edges together. And we are going to start with, let's see, it's 3/8 inch seam allowance. So we'll start with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. So we'll sew this with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And do back stitch. was supposed to be right sides together if you were doing a French seam. But that's okay. We'll show you with the other side. So wrong sides together if you're doing a French seam. Wrong sides together. Like this. That's not quite lined up. Then you turn it right sides together. We did a 1/8 inch for that seam allowance, so 1/8 of an inch, or 3/8 inch minus 1/8 inch is 2/8 inches, which is 1/4. So now we're gonna do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm gonna press this though, I think. Well, yeah, better. All right, so now you'll see I have my seam there on the inside, and we are doing it right sides together now. And since we did a 1/8 inch seam allowance, first we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance now. So that 1/8 inch seam allowance will be encased in the 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's what it looks like from the inside. I'll open it up so you can maybe see it a little bit better. There you go. Your seam allowance is like, it's got no raw edges. And on the outside, it just looks like a regular seam. And for this side, I don't feel like seam ripping, so I'm just gonna do the proper seam allowance over here. Okay. Oops. So now it says we are ready to hem our skirt, which is awesome, but you may want to attach it to your bodice first and then hem to make sure that it's the length that you want it to be. So this has like a pretty deep hem. It says to fold it up 1/2 of an inch, press, and then fold it another 2 inches and press. So that's a pretty deep hem. If you want to sew it to your bodice first, that's fine, but I think I'm going to do it the way the pattern suggests because I know that my girl is the height of a 2T. So we are going to go ahead and press it up 1/2 inch. What's nice about it having such a deep hem is you have a lot to work with. Like if you need to take out any for length or if you need to take it up a little bit more, it doesn't matter. You've got lots of hem to work with. Make sure you guys are commenting too so that I know you're here so I can enter you in the giveaway. I was saying before, for our new viewers, that I'm going to be trying to do a sew along like once a month. So if you have any suggestions on what pattern you'd like to see me do, let me know in the comments. I haven't picked what I'm doing for next month yet, so if you have like weddings that you have to take your kids to, or I mean any of the women's patterns, I'd be happy to do too. Alright, I'm done the 1/2 inch, so now I'm pressing it up 2 inches additionally. I'm not actually good at eyeballing 2 inches, so there we go. That's about 2 inches. The deep hems are nice too because it kind of gives it that vintage vibe and it gives it a little bit of structure at the bottom of your skirt. So it doesn't just lie super flat, it kind of poofs a little, if that makes sense. I love a good deep hem. Oh boy, this is taking a while. The pressing is necessary though for a good hem. Especially on the deep ones like this. You can't really use your seam allowance for. Almost there. My hem might have ended up being a little more than 2 inches in some places, but it's all good. Okay. So now it says to use a 1 7/8 inch seam allowance, but sometimes it's easier if you have the same thread in your top and bottom and your bobbin thread looks okay from the wrong side. You can just do it along here. But you can mark like if you take your measuring tape, you can see the 7/8 inches line on your sewing machine. And you can measure out an extra inch and like mark it with tape or something. Actually, I have tape here. Okay. So basically what I do, I don't know if you can see it. Might be a little backwards for you, but anyway. Basically what I do is I go 1 inch from the 7/8 mark line, and then you can tape a piece of paper or just use like masking tape or whatever, like that. So now this is my seam allowance line here that I'm going to use. So I line that up like that. Just getting organized, guys. It's important. There we go. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna turn my length up to a 3 because it's a top stitch. A twin needle. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I did actually bring my twin needle, but because I don't have my thread stand, it's not really easy with the Surgicone threads. So we're just gonna do a single regular thread, regular needle. So this is the part where you hope that you measured your 2-inch hem properly. Such a pretty deep hem. Can't wait to take photos of this dress, show y'all how it turned out. I'm a cute little model. Just doing a hem for those who just joined. The most exciting part of sewing a dress. Okay. Backstitch that. Et voila. A nice deep hem. Okay. Now we pretty much have to do the same thing. Look at that. Not a great job measuring my 2 inches because there's quite a bit of fabric there. But anyway, it's good. Okay, so now are we gathering? Yeah, so it says set 2 rows of gathering stitches. Woohoo! Good job to whoever designed this dress. That is my favorite way to gather. You do not have to do it this way. This is just my favorite way. I know there's so many different methods for gathering, but I just find this way is the best. Okay. So we're going to do 1 row of gathering stitches at 1/4 of an inch from the raw edge. And then we're going to do another one like 1/4 of an inch farther from that one. And we're going to make sure our stitch length is all the way up for that because gathering is so much easier when it's long. It also doesn't have to be perfect. Make sure that seam was in the right spot. Close enough. There we go, there's the first row of gathering stitches. Now we gotta do second row. I just kind of line it up with the side of my foot. It's pretty easy. Pull a skirt through here. There we go. That'll make things easier. Remember, we're not back stitching. I almost did, but I didn't. Okay, now we have 2 rows of gathering stitches. So we are going to pull on the bobbin threads. If I can find those bobbin threads. Here's one. Here's the other one. There. It's easier if you use a different thread in your bobbin than your top, or a different color anyway. Okay, so there you go. Now I'm just sliding it along those bobbin threads that I'm holding with this hand. You probably don't need to be so close to me anymore, hey? There. We'll just have a nice little chat as we gather together. Keep me company. This will take a while. Hey, we're at an hour and a half and we already have a bodice done and almost done our skirt. All we have to do is gather and attach, and that's it. That's all we have to do left. We have a dress. All 5 of us. That's okay, people have lives. It's hard to pull the bobbin threads at like the exact same amount of pressure. There. Try to be careful not to fray your edges. It's not ideal. These gathers don't have to be super tight, I don't think. I don't think this skirt is quite double the width of the waist of the bodice, so the gathers are not super tight. We're a quarter of the way done our gathering. Hey, we have a new guest. Ooh, we have a couple. So I'm holding on to the bobbin threads here. I'm not even touching the top threads, and I'm just like sliding the fabric along the bobbin threads. If I got close to the end of my bobbin threads on the other side, they would start to pull out. People hate gathering this way, but I find it so therapeutic. It's like, they say like repetitive movements are super therapeutic, and I find this rather repetitive. I just like pull little bits like this, and it just kind of slides right along those bobbin threads. I use embroidery pre-round bobbins in my sewing machine, and they're a little bit like slipperier. They're like silky, and so they're a little slipperier, and the fabric tends to slide along them better. And it's easier to pull out stitches if you make a mistake. But they're also super strong, so you don't have to worry about the structure of your dress falling apart. Alright, so we're halfway there. Obviously those gathers are way too tight. Well, maybe not way too tight, but too tight at least. So now we can take the bobbin threads from the other side, now that these are getting super long and unmanageable. We can find the bobbin threads from the other side, like the ends of the bobbin threads, and start gathering from the other way. You don't have to, I just prefer it. Oh, we're back down to five viewers. For those 6 that are still here, make sure you leave a comment so that you can be entered to win the prize of our giveaway for today. I tend to just like gather all the way, even if the gathers are too tight. It tends to be easier to loosen them than to gather them a little more after you're pinning it to the bodice. I just can't get over how beautiful this floral is. I hope my littlest loves her new dress. I think she'll probably wear it. My oldest daughter is having a birthday party very soon, Encanto themed. She's dressing up as Mirabelle, of course. Is anyone else's kids like obsessed with that movie? Man. Like, I feel like the excitement of it being released is over, but like my kids are still loving Encanto. I think we've watched it at least twice this week and then once last week, I think, too. It's just ridiculous. Must be the music. I mean, the whole movie is amazing, but for kids, it must be the music. We are Disney lovers. If you want to see my oldest daughter's, your threads break, your bobbin threads break when you're gathering? Do you do 2 rows of gathering stitches? Because I find if you do 2 rows instead of 1 row of gathering stitches, it keeps it a little stronger because 2 is stronger than 1. But also, I was just explaining I use embroidery, like pre-wound embroidery bobbins, like these. And they're like silky. You can see they're super shiny. They're silky, so the fabric slides along them a lot easier and are less likely to get stuck. And they're super, super strong. Like, it's really hard to break the embroidery thread. So that's what I use in my bobbins. Okay, so now I have my whole skirt gathered. And I'm going to match up the side seams. Turn it inside out first. Easier, put it on over top. Okay, so I'm matching the side seams of the skirt to the side seam of my bodice. And putting in a little pin. And the other side. Goodness gracious. We're losing some of our gathers here. There we go. Match up those side seams, and then we'll figure out what we have to do with our gathers, if we need to tighten them or loosen them. Okay, so actually the front is pretty much there. I'm just going to loosen them up a little bit, spread them out nice and even. Make sure there's no like super tight spots and no like super loose spots. Just try to get it as flat as you can. And then I'm gonna pin that along there. Guess I better open my pin box. Bonsoir! If my French was good enough, I would do another sew along in French. Hi, Sissy. My sister just joined. Okay, so make sure you use lots of pins to pin the skirt to the bodice because it's not going to do any damage to use too much. Alright, so then for the back, it's a little bit trickier because of the elastic back. So make sure that when you're pinning the skirt to the bodice, that the bodice is stretched out so you don't get any tucks or anything. And now that we've done the front bodice, you can see exactly like how spaced out the gathers should be, so it should be a lot easier to guess the amount of gathers that you need for that. Hi, Kaz. My cousin and my sister are working together and clearly both watching me now. That makes 10 viewers. We're almost done. We just have to attach our skirt to our bodice. I am not enclosing my waist seam because I'm going to serge it anyway, so I don't need to worry about the raw edges. I guess I need to loosen my gathers a little more. But if you did want to enclose your waist seam, you totally can. I'm going to do a blog post on it really soon. I have all the pictures taken for it and everything on how to enclose a waist seam, but I haven't posted it yet. Stop, you're making me blush. So I'm just kind of like spreading the back where it's elastic. I'm just kind of spreading it as I pin it to my skirt so that there's no tucks when we attach it. I'm gonna loosen my gathers some more. I'm like obsessed with my gathers being super even all the way around. I might make this live a few hours long, but the outcome will be cute. Yeah, that's better. At least now when I have 8 viewers, I feel like I'm not talking to myself when I sew. Anyway, I was going to say, if you want to see my oldest's Mirabelle costume that she's wearing to her birthday party, you can go to my, actually it's on Simple Life's Instagram page, so you can go there, or go to mine. My handle is The Sensible Sewist. You've probably noticed that. Okay. One more pin. There we go. Okay, so our skirt is now pinned to our bodice. And we are going to sew that with a stitch length of 2. So I like to start where I was pulling my bobbin threads out, just to secure that so that the gathers don't loosen as I sew. And we are going to sew that at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And don't forget to backstitch. And so I'm also stretching out the back bodice as I sew to make sure that there's no tucks at the back. If you don't stretch it, the back bodice will tuck in and it won't look as nice. It'll still look fine. It's just because it's going to be gathered anyway, you won't really be able to notice it, but to allow it to gather the way it's supposed to gather, just stretch the bodice out a little bit as you sew. And as I'm going, I'm just kind of spreading out those gathers so they are evenly spaced. These ones are super tight, so I'm just pushing them down a little bit. There we go. Oh, those ones are pretty tight too. Bodice is done, so we don't need to stretch anymore. We're just going to sew it onto the front bodice now. And there we go. I'll serge that on after. But there is the cutest little summer dress. No. So now I just need to trim all my threads. They're everywhere. And we need to pull out the second gathering stitch, which is probably my favorite part of gathering. Okay, so now we're gonna find those bobbins that we were pulling on. And the one that is showing on our bodice, so the one that's further down, we're gonna take the bobbin thread and just keep pulling. It'll like gather the bodice together with the skirt, but just keep going. I like to cut it with Mr. Seam Ripper here. I can't believe this is the first time I'm pulling out my seam ripper. At the other side seam, and so I just pull the bobbin thread right out, and if you flip it over, you can pull the top thread just right out of there. It comes out super easy. So then I'm going to do the other side. Get that bobbin thread. See, so I'm just pulling the bobbin thread right out of the skirt until it totally comes loose. Throw that onto my mother's floor. And then the top thread just comes right off. You can just pull it all the way off, all the way around the bodice. It's got stuck on something. There we go. Now we just have to trim all of the threads. Here we go. Wow. Hi. Okay, so I was just telling the others when I the bobbin threads that I use, I get the pre-wound embroidery bobbins. They look like this. They're super silky and super strong, and the fabric just like slides right along them like butter. And they're super strong, so they like never break. So yeah, like after you're done all your gathers, after your skirt is attached to the bodice, you literally just pull out the bobbin thread all the way through. Yeah, and then that top thread just comes right out too. So there we go. Now, you don't need to watch for this part, but yeah, I know, right? Mind blown. That's why I think that the 2 rows of gathering stitches is the way to go. And like the gathers turn out perfect. Like look at these pretty gathers. They're just like so perfect. All right, so we're just trimming our threads. Can't wait to see what you guys make with this. You humans make with this. I know you're not really all guys. So like all of our threads from when we stitched in the ditch, when we were putting our elastics in the casings, those need to be trimmed. Seriously. There we go. Where are my little snippies? My brother got me these shears for Christmas. They're the ginger, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's like ginger with an H in it. Oh, I don't know if you can see. Anyway, he got me those for Christmas. Best Christmas gift ever. I use them all the time. And they came with these free little snippies, which are so much easier for trimming threads. Well, feel free to tell everyone your way of gathering then, Callie. Because maybe some people will think your way is easier too. And that's just fine. So many threads to trim. Do you guys trim your threads as you go? Yeah, they are the best, aren't they? Do you guys trim your threads as you go, or do you like trim it all at the end like I do? I just find it takes so much time like while I'm sewing. I just want to keep sewing. I don't have to clean every 5 seconds. All right, so that was what, 2 hours? 2 hours so long? That wasn't so bad. We sewed a dress in 2 hours, guys. That's nothing. This dress is so awesome. I seriously cannot believe that you can get this dress for free. Oh yeah, by the way, if you don't know about this dress, it's the Catalina Dress Pattern from Simple Life Patterns. This one here. It's super cute, and you can get it free with the code in their group, their Facebook group, I mean. Okay. Oh, I still have some threads over here, my God. There we go. There, so now all I will have to do is serge the inside seam. Yeah, I agree with you. The 2 rows is the best way to do it. I could never figure out the elastic weight yet either. But like, you should see Callie's, the crown and owl there. She does it so easily, and maybe it's just her machine, I don't know, but it's genius. It would save so much time. Okay, so here's what I mean by the hem. The deep hem like makes the skirt have a little bit of structure rather than just lying so flat like they normally do. It kind of makes it stand out and be a little bit poofy. Okay, and that's the end, guys. We sewed a dress. Yay! I can't wait to see all the dresses that you make. And stay tuned. I'm gonna try and do these sew-alongs like once a month and see if we can get through a whole bunch of our patterns. No, just I use it for the whole dress actually, because so somebody just asked me if I use the embroidery thread in my bobbin for the whole dress, and the answer is yes. I don't know if I'm supposed to, but it's actually really strong, and so it makes my seams stronger. It has even like a little bit of give to it, so you don't have to worry about it snapping so easily. Yeah, for the top stitching, I don't like the like shiny, so I use like just regular thread in my top threading. But for the embroidery, for the bobbin, I use the embroidery thread because it's just easier and it's strong. That's just what I do. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and stay tuned. I'll be giving more information about when our next sew-along will be, and if you have any ideas about what pattern you want to see me sew next, leave me a comment and we will choose one really soon. Thanks for joining.